So this question is for both of you. We'll go to Mr. Rubins first. The intelligence community indicates that many of the warning signs of terrorism, both in the United States and abroad, can be found on social media. What can the government do to enhance terror plot detection in the cyber world without violating privacy?
Right. We've found that these abrogations of the Fourth Amendment do almost nothing to defeat terrorism. So I have an extensive plan to resist and kill ISIS on my website, jimrubins.com. Number one, we've got to reject Hillary Clinton and my opponent, Kelly Ayat's failed nation-building war strategy. They have advocated going into Libya, bomb Libya, now we've got an ISIS haven. They've gone into Syria, arm and train the so-called moderates, and now we've got an ISIS caliphate. And more recently, they've advocated arming with bombs Saudi Arabia, that they're dropping on children and hospitals in Yemen. It's created a massive human disaster, refugees, a humanitarian crisis. What we do need to do is seal our borders so the bad guys and drug mules can't get in. We've got to force Saudi Arabia to cease and desist funding terrorists and terror ideology. And we've got to, if war is necessary, go to Congress, respect our veterans and soldiers, go to Congress under Article 1, Section 8,
Rubins,
and declare war, including a plan to win and exit.
Mr. Rubins, specific to the question, how do you police the internet?
We, as a part of my plan, again, I have to send you to jimrubins.com because it's many, many points in my plan to defeat terrorism, and we need a social media campaign. It may be in part government run, it may be in part run by volunteers, but we need to push back in every way possible against this marketing campaign. And I go to Saudi Arabia again. Saudi Arabia, we know, they funded the people who killed almost 3,000 Americans on 9/11. Saudi Arabia is the world's leading funder of terror and terror ideology. So these are the people we've got to shut down, and you cannot stop terrorism if we leave countries like Turkey and Saudi Arabia funding terrorism.
Mr. Rubins, it's time for...
It's a fundamental flaw.
Senator, you were invoked again by Mr. Rubins. If you'd like to rebut on this question, feel free.
Well, I'd like to answer Josh's question. Right now, unfortunately, having been a prosecutor myself, the FBI is missing a tool in their toolbox. And in fact, we had a vote on the Senate on this. Right now, in a child pornography case, for example, you can get basic internet records that they're being limited from getting in a terrorism case. And we're not talking about content, we're actually talking about basic records of when people connect online that they're being denied. And I voted to support that in the Senate. It failed by 1 vote. And I know one thing, we need to also really encourage Twitter and Facebook. They've taken down thousands of sites related to terrorism. And this can be one where we call on the private sector to make sure that when people are promoting terrorism, that they take these sites down, and they've already to act in that regard, because we cannot allow ISIS to promote terrorism, but we have to make sure our first responders have the tools that they have in a basic criminal case, in a terrorism case.
So, Senator, would you support military action to counter a cyber attack on the country's infrastructure, such as our power grid or our banking system?
Well, Josh, I would say that I would support making sure we need to do what we need to do to keep the country safe. And it would depend on the circumstances, but I know one thing, we need to improve our cyber response, and we have professionals that are focused on not only defending the nation against cyber attacks, but really focusing on counterattacks in the cyber realm. And obviously, we would have to look at what happens and have an appropriate response. But I've been very disappointed, for example, in instances where you've seen China and Russia attacking us in the cyber world, and we have not come up with an appropriate response. And even when we think about economic sanctions and things that we can use, the first tools in our toolbox before we ever go to military force, those are the types of actions we have to go to. But we have to protect this country. If someone comes after our critical infrastructure, we have to take appropriate steps to make sure that we stop them and make sure that that does not happen again.
So what about you, Mr. Rubins? Would you support military action to counter a cyber attack?
We have a failed military strategy promulgated by Hillary Clinton and my opponent here, okay? It's not working. It's spread terrorism. It's made America less safe. We need a fundamental rethink of military strategy. We need the strongest, most technologically advanced military in the world. We've got to look out 50 years at potential enemies, and we need to defend. We need to defend the high ground of freedom, which are the sea lanes, the public space, international sea lanes, the in space and communications. And when we rethink this strategy, we'll be thinking about stopping pork that is being used in military spending. My opponent voted for things like the F-35 fighter, which is pork. She opposes a military base closing commission round, which will eliminate pork. We need to be, again, totally focused on realigning our strategy around long-term and short-term threats, and then spending every nickel that we have on national defense focused on those threats. We're not doing that now.
Senator, you can respond if you'd like.
To be clear, I have been a big critic of the Obama-Clinton foreign policy. And for example, when they withdrew our troops from Iraq, creating the vacuum that we saw ISIS rise from, I was very critical of that. The Iran deal, the transfer of prisoners from Gitmo. And, you know, this is an area, of course, where I differ very much with Governor Maggie Hassan in terms of her full-throated defense of the Clinton foreign policy when it comes to Iran, when it comes to, she won't even tell us whether she would support having terrorists transferred to the United
Thank you, Senator.
States.
We're actually going to move on to another issue now that New Hampshire voters see
I
is
need
the
to
number
add
one
something.
issue facing the state.
Please, I need to add
We're going
this.
to keep the discussion
Senator,
going.
Senator,
please.
Hillary Clinton have approximately
Senator,
the same
Senator, you agreed to the
military
rules of this
policies.
debate.
I'm done.
Thank you very much.